Okay, so this is going to be less of like a recall note in the series of recall notes that I've been doing, and more just kind of a note to self or note to somebody who might find it useful. The subject is basically I've got a Mac, so this is a Mac. I can't just press play on this VR project and have it run over an Oculus Link cable to the headset. That won't work because it's a Mac. Historical note, you used to be able to do this in the early days of the Oculus Developer Kit 1. It did support Mac. That's just a historical note. This is the sample scene from the VR template. The VR template is Unity Hub. If you do new project and then select VR, that's what you get here. It's this VR room, if you will. So what I did is I basically in Unity Hub added Android build support, which is Android is the operating system. This is maybe not telling you something you don't already know, but Android is the operating system that the Quest uses, that the Pico uses, etc. So you add Android build support, and then you basically set up the player. Minimal setup required there. Some settings for Android. I think the only thing I did here, I may have not even changed anything, but there is a setting in here for Android APK level, and right now I think it's set to 32. Where is that? And yeah, API level 32. It's basically just like building an Android app essentially. And then you basically just do build and run and save a build. And so this is an M2 MacBook Air. There's no fan built into this machine. It's just the M series chip and 24 gigs of memory, maybe even 16 gigs of memory. And I gotta say, the first build took maybe 10 to 15 minutes, which is annoying. But then what I did is I switched over to the basic scene, which is just an empty VR scene, and I put my VR beer props project in that scene. These are basically beer mugs that you can empty and fill with a tap here. So it's an empty scene, but it's the same project. And clicking build and run on this, the build took like less than 60 seconds, and it just pops open in a connected Oculus Quest. Really seamless, really easy. I think the only gotcha was like when you first connect the Quest to the computer, you've got to click enable USB debugging or something like that. And it's got an option for always set that to true, so you never have to think about it again. So the question is it feasible to build Quest apps without a Windows PC? And I think the answer is basically yes, it is. A couple of gotchas, like obviously the build time is a thing, and subsequent builds are faster. I think there's even like a hot build or something feature that I don't know about. And then the question is, every time you're uploading the APK to the head-mounted display over USB, that takes a non-zero amount of time. In this project it takes maybe 10 seconds, but as the project gets bigger, it might get slower. But in order to not have to run Windows, I'm pretty happy with how this works. I mean, I basically configured the scene. I dropped in to play it. I realized I had some things in the wrong spot. I dropped in to play it again. I realized the light was in the wrong spot. I changed that. Excuse me, just iteratively building the scene and playing it. And it was a pretty seamless experience. I would almost say it's a better experience than debugging over Oculus Link, just in terms of not having to set up Oculus Link every time. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to end up buying a Windows PC because I've got a license of a 3D modeler for Windows, and I don't have a license for Mac. And you obviously can't do PC VR this way. Like if I want to run, one of my studio tours, in VR rather than in WebGL. This model is there's too much texturing, there's too much dynamic lighting. The model is too heavy, it's not optimized for low poly. So if I want to run this model in VR, I have to run a PC VR with the Quest Link cable attached using the GPU of the computer and all like that. And you can't do that on a Mac. So it will probably be the case that I end up buying a Windows laptop. But for now, I'm pretty happy with what I've got.